What's up, guys? Welcome back. It's CDome. In today's video, we're going to be going over the PUBG AMA that was on Reddit yesterday. That's the Ask Me Anything, where the PUBG directors and devs sat down and answered a lot of the questions from the community. Some of them were just kind of lighthearted. What are your best wishes for PUBG, and what was your funnest thing about developing Sanhok? Others were actually some pretty interesting gameplay element questions that PUBG developers actually answered. So I thought it'd be cool if we go over a few of those. If you don't want to see all the questions, you want to skip to the end, I did a quick recap at the very end of this video, so skip forward to there. And if you guys want to talk about anything that was in the PUBG AMA, feel free to stop by my Twitch channel. I stream 5 days a week at twitch.tv/c_dome. My link will be in the description somewhere, probably right there if you want to click it and follow it. Literally is just right there. Did you follow yet? All right, hope you enjoy the video. Let's jump right in. All right, so on today's AMA, or on yesterday's AMA rather, they had Dave Curd. He's the studio director at PUBG Madison, Wisconsin. They had Dan Kramer. He's the lead engineer over there. And then they had Andre Tiran, or Tiran. He's the game and level designer. So these three guys were on the AMA answering as many of the community's questions as possible. So I figured it'd be kind of cool if we just went over like the top 10, top 15 questions, just to see if there's anything interesting to share to the community. They also ended up doing a giveaway for the AMA. So they picked 25 PC questions and 25 console questions, and they're going to give some Survivor Pass payback skin codes and stuff. So I thought that was pretty cool. Okay, one of the questions here is, will PUBG consider solving the problem of too much dynamic range in the in-game audio? Basically talking about how footsteps are really, really low, so people crank their sound up and then, you know, gunshots happen or something like that, and it's extremely loud. The lead studio director, Dave, says, we hear you loud and clear. Our team are always pushing for improvement. I always have my audio cranked up to hear Sneaky Pete's, and later I forget the intro music and it gives me a massive coronary and my hands get numb. Anyways, I'll pass the feedback along. I always have to use F7, the volume sound reducer, whenever I'm in vehicles, and it sucks to hear that they don't have an actual solution to that yet. Another question here. I like this one. Would you consider bringing back the night setting to several maps in the future? One of the lead engineers just says, interesting idea. The studio director, again, Dave, says 100%. We love the nighttime too. The main thing is if we bring it back, it needs to look and perform well and offer interesting gameplay implications. If we ever find that balance, we would love to revisit the night setting. Thanks for the question. I really enjoyed Vikendi the night mode. I think it's one of the most underrated maps, to be honest, and the night mode just offered a really cool vibe. They obviously had to address like the wind noise and that kind of stuff, but I think if they iron out those few minor things, night mode would be really cool, especially on the new Sanhok. Can you imagine like a night mode jungle map, maybe with some kind of night vision scope that you could find in a loot truck or something? That'd be kind of cool. This was a really fun question. Any plans to make the bridges at Quarry breakable via a lot of bullets or throwables? Every time I've seen the new Quarry, it makes me think of Indiana Jones. How cool would it be if you could like hack away one of the ropes and the bridge like swings down, basically stopping someone from being able to chase you, or you cut off that rotation point or something like that. It might not be like that useful of a gameplay mechanic, but just kind of cool. And one of the game and level designers says, whoa, this is a cool idea. So they think so too. Are there any plans for solving the vertical audio issues? What kind of inspiration do you guys take when developing a new map? And are we going to see another remaster next, or a whole new map entirely? Because there have been 2 hinted at maps in the future. So the studio director took a stab at this one. He says the audio team works like demons to get the sound perfect. Everything that bothers you, I promise it bothers them 10 times worse. We're a diverse group of developers, so we draw from a pretty deep well. Basically goes on to say that's where they get their inspiration from. There's all kinds of walks of life in their development team. And this says, in fact, when developing this map during the crazy COVID times, diving into Sanhok has been a great escape from the real world. Oh no, from our weird world, excuse me. We hope that playing it offers a little break from the madness. And then for the third question, he said they would snipe me through my office window if I told you, when asked about the 2 new maps. One of the game designers replied here and says, hey guy, I know you've kept competitive play in mind when working on these updates to Sanhok. Would you mind briefly covering some of the changes that were directed at improving the experience for ranked esports? And then Dave says, I went into this a bit lower in the thread, but the main thing was ranked and esport players have been on the struggle bus, re traversal and wonky final circles, sheer 90-degree cliff faces, brutal river crossings, big northwest mountains being very unbalanced, so these features make it hard to play fair, competitive games. We want tactics to matter. High ground should be advantageous, but not overwhelmingly so. So the big focus was rebalancing those engagements to feel a little bit more fair, and then adjusting the areas of the map that weren't seeing enough love. Rest in Power Coconut Farm, one of the very unused locations. Someone says the loot truck would not be good for ranked. I agree. Yeah, there's no way that thing can go in ranked. Here's a fun question. What's your guys' favorite new addition or change to Sanhok as far as locations, like boot camp, airfield, etc., and why? So Dave says it's hard to pick one location, but I thought it was pretty interesting. He says that when they first approached map design a little over 3 years ago, his idea or thought process was make a big landscape and sprinkle in cool TDM type of locations on top. But he's saying as their studio has kind of grown and matured, they're doing a better job at, he says, connective tissue between locations, basically making the maps flow a lot better. And they're making sure they're seeing the desired engagements at the desired pace. On Sanhok, this really meant reworking the big northwest mountain and totally revisiting the river network to aid with good flow. All of the new locations are pretty rad, but the main thing is now the journey feels as good as the destination. The lead engineer says, I like several of the new spots, but I think I'd say Ruins is probably my favorite for the look, the layout, and the loot. Getaway is up there too for the awesome bar lighting in Ashley's Black Cat, and a chance to stop in at Lucky Dan's. If you guys haven't been to the new Getaway, the party zone, you gotta go. It's super, super cool. I have like neon purple and green lights in my room. And so walking into that thing, I was like, I need some of those lights in my room now. It really is cool. So I agree. That's one of my favorite places too. Here's another interesting one from Kill Motor. Hello, playing on PC. Will you consider having different outfits for each map? I mean, I've got hundreds of clothes, skins, etc. from all the passes I've purchased. It would be so cool if we could have presets for every map, or even just presets and a way to easily switch between them. I know the team has considered this. I think the concern is a balance issue of everyone switching to their tactical outfits to best match each map's color scheme. And I see that argument, but I'm also a big fan of maximizing the player's ability to express themselves in-game. I'll pass this feedback along. That's interesting, because I feel like everyone defaulted to the black hoodie on almost every map when that thing first came out, and it was a little OP in some of the darker areas. But that would be kind of cool if you could have like Sanhok clothing theme, an Erangel, a Miramar, a Vikindi, because some of the clothing sets that you do purchase, they are meant for those specific maps. So that would be kind of cool if we could choose that. Here's a fun question about the loot truck. How did you come up with the idea for the loot truck, and were there any previously rejected concepts of it? If so, in what way did they differ? So Tyrant came with this answer. He says, Sanhok has already had a more aggressive map in the rotation, so we wanted to play off that concept and create some points of conflict that were dynamic. Originally, we had talked about making public airdrops, which would be identified on the minimap, and having players fight over that. The more they talked about it, they crossed that out. They said it was too far out of the PUBG DNA. Riffing off that idea, though, they talked about a roaming loot pinata. So think of Fortnite's loot pinata, just with wheels. That's what they landed on with the PUBG loot truck. And Elkram, one of the lead engineers, says, some ideas we briefly considered and rejected, at least for now. Loot truck dropping in via parachute, a loot tank, or a loot convoy. So those have all been taken off the table. That would have been interesting, though. Instead of the loot truck driving around the map, if it came down with some kind of big siren from the sky, like a plane dropped off a big loot truck or something like that. I don't know. Here we have a question about the recent dev letter about the audio footsteps, which if you haven't read that dev letter, I highly recommend it. If you don't want to read it and you want to watch it, check out my latest video. I'll link it to the little link thing above you or in the description, where they go over the audio footstep changes and how that balance is going to change. So it's a real good listen, or good read rather. Hey guys, thanks for doing this AMA. My PUBG question would be, is there a timeline for the blood effects to be re-implemented? Second, non-PUBG related question, if any of you guys are beer fans, what's your favorite local brewery or beer? Okay. So Elkram says blood effects is a different team. Can't speak to that. Rip the dream. But it does have a lengthy answer about beer. Okay. So here's a question for the console players. He says, hey PUBG devs, as an Xbox player, I would like to see the follow system and frame rate fixes, especially for smoke grenades. Any input on that? And Dave says they've made a big focus on Sanhok playing better, meaning the performance of it. So he goes into detail. Every blade of grass, rock, tree, and building has been remade to look better and be more performant. So less verts, smarter, fewer materials, better level of details, etc. Our texture memory, for example, is in a better place from the legacy Sanhok, so we're doing our part to save you sweet frames. I'm on PC and I have a 2080 Ti, 9900K, and 64 gigabytes of RAM, and I played yesterday all night on 1440p, 240 hertz monitor on ultra settings, and my frames were like 180, 190, so I think they're onto something here. Another PUBG console community member, Chewy Cracker, you guys may know him, has asked, I've not found the Decoy Grenade on the PTS or in the patch notes, only in your Twitter feed. What's the plan with that? It actually was in the patch notes. Additionally, any update on the gun Alex the PUBG dev has been leaking? When will the PTS be live on console? Any plan to add solo rank to console? And he's a console player if you don't know. PUBG Elkram says, Decoy Grenade? Okay, we're getting baited. Yeah, so the Decoy Grenade and LMG, I'm thinking are just going to be added later in Season 8. They're probably just doing some more testing on it. The PTS is most likely going to be on console next Tuesday on the 22nd. That's when it goes live to PC. That's kind of what they've been doing, like a week behind PC. And there are no plans to add solo rank to console. That was answered somewhere along the Twitter feeds at one point. Will we ever get another special game mode like Fantasy Royale again? Probably. One person asked, how fast will the loot truck move? Will you be able to keep up with it by foot? No. The loot truck moves faster than a player running, so you have to make use of your window of opportunity as a loot truck drives by. One of the favorite things to do in the playtest, I admit extremely risky, is to chase one down in a vehicle. There's nothing quite like going on a Mad Max chase through Sanhok countryside on a motorcycle while your teammate is brandishing a Panzerfaust for some big damage. Just to add to that, yeah, it's incredibly fast. You can't keep up with it on foot. However, if you throw a spike strip down, it will run over the spike strip and disable it for a few seconds, and then it'll carry on. So if you spread out the spike strips enough, you can really keep it pinned down for a long time. But I don't think anything can stop it, because it even runs over a previously exploded loot truck like it ain't nothing and just keeps on going through. So your best bet is to just have explosives and light it up when you see it. All right, almost like these questions were meant to go together. What's the most interesting thing that almost made it into the game but didn't? Tyrant says, originally we talked about the loot truck playing loud music to notify players that it was nearby, which I call the ice cream truck effect. Determined that the sound was too disruptive for combat and gameplay, they ended up cutting this, thank God. Elkram says, oh man, I forgot about that. That was probably a good cut. F for ice cream truck. And then Tyrant also says, clearly my childhood is leaking into my designs. Yeah, thank God they didn't actually have that. All right, here's another one. Hey, I was wondering how far ahead your team works on content. Season 8 is being released, but are you currently in the planning stages for Season 10 already? I've always been curious about that, especially during the pandemic. Things must have changed. Elkram says, COVID-19 has definitely been a challenge. The Madison team has been working from home since mid-March, so the majority of this season was done from home. This adds a degree of difficulty since those of us with family and kids now, and this has been redacted, have to put up with the screaming. Oh, the screaming. It never stops. Get to work alongside our families. Yes, we are already making Season 10 and even 12 plans. The ideal situation is to be in a position where you have the content ready and in the bag for multiple upcoming releases. Reality has a harsh way of ignoring ideal situations and laughing in your face, however. What's the next map you're going to change? Miramar? Kurt Stuff says, not a crazy guess. Okay, Miramar 2.0 coming. Here's another question about the backpack I was just talking about. Was the radio style backpack, which Alex, the PUBG dev, tweeted an image of on Twitter, simply a great looking backpack? Or does it have any new and improved traits for the PUBG experience? Kurt Stuff says, it's going to be a cruel summer. Elkram says, Alex always seems to find things he's not supposed to find. I really hope this thing does not prevent blue zone damage. I'll say it again. That would be hella toxic. Here's an interesting ranked question. Why did you not make esport vehicles hard spawn locations 100% chance of vehicles spawning in ranked mode? Kurd Stuff says, it's not really my team, but from my perspective, I think esports functions as PUBG as a competitive contest, and ranked is aiming for a perfectly distilled BR experience. And I think a big part of the PUBG BR experience is no two games are the same, and the variety of player stories that come from the world being somewhat unpredictable. I'm sure that's not the answer you were looking for, but I kind of think that's the deal. That's interesting. I honestly think it should be the opposite. I feel like the ranked mode should be the closest mirror image to the esports world. And if you're more of a fan of total RNG, you play non-ranked mode. All right, here's a fun question here. This is to Dave Kurd. Have you guys ever tossed around the idea of a lootable parachute to assist in getting out of sticky situations when pinned in elevated locations? Perhaps it's a one-time use item that's destroyed once you use it. Also a question for the whole team. Why have we not seen skins for body armor? And could this be a thing we see at some point? That's an interesting question. On a personal side note, I would love to see a hardcore mode where you cannot be revived. Kurd Stuff says 100%. We love that idea. As designers, we love giving players situational, interesting choices, and a lootable parachute absolutely ticks that box. I imagine it would need to take up a ton of space in your inventory to balance the freedom of choice it offers. Vest skins are a great suggestion. And finally, we all love hardcore mode as well. You know, it's counterintuitive, but hardcore rules, higher damage, no revives, quicker TTK are typically more forgiving for beginner users, which could be a good thing. Or more forgiving? No, that doesn't sound right at all, does it? Hardcore mode is more forgiving for beginner users? Interesting. I like the idea of a lootable parachute though. I always thought the gliders should give you that, almost like, you ever played like Grand Theft Auto when you would get in a plane or a helicopter? If you jumped out, you automatically had a parachute. I feel like gliders should do that too, because like, what the hell? You're way up there. Like maybe when you blow up a glider, instead of it just being disabled and it glides down to the ground, the player has 5 seconds to either eject, jump out of the glider with the parachute, or stay in it and it blows up. That'd be kind of cool. Good question there. That was fun. Here's some fun insight on the loot truck design. So one person asked, how much loot does a truck drop and how much punishment can it take? Elkram says, are you asking how much loot would a loot truck drop if a loot truck could drop loot? I got that on the first try. Oh shit. Okay. Anyway, without giving away numbers, the loot truck can drop some significant, possibly even unique rewards. The truck can take a lot of damage, but the sides aren't armored as heavily as the front and the back. Interesting. So shoot it from the sides, it drops more loot. Even if you can't kill the truck, so the crates it pops off as it takes damage can offset any ammo you spent to get them, but there's no guarantee that you'll get the exact kind of ammo you spent. For the loot truck, that is true. It drops 2 different types of crates, small and big crates. The small ones usually have like ammo, maybe a backpack or something. The bigger crates have a chance of level 3 gear and also actual weapons in them. So make sure to go loot those on the ground, even if you don't destroy the loot truck entirely. A question about ranked duos pops up. Is it discussed or is it absolutely no topic at all? So Kurd Stuff reached out to Brian Corrigan, the studio director and ranked expert. He told him, no plans at this time. It's not really something we're deciding. It's something the players have to ultimately decide. We have significantly less duo players than squad players, so if the numbers of normal duos for some reason goes up significantly, then we definitely open up a queue. So basically they're looking at the normal non-ranked mode and looking at how many duos queue up versus how many squads queue up, and there's significantly less. I personally would love to see a solo or a duo ranked mode. I think ideally, if they have squads already, a solo makes the most sense just because it's the exact opposite of what the squad ranked is. But I don't know, with the esports being squads only, it makes sense. That's going to be their main focus, you know? All right, guys, so that wraps it up for our quick review of the PUBG AMA on Reddit. I thought it was pretty cool. I got to see a lot of interesting questions asked and some cryptic, some not so cryptic answers from the PUBG devs. It's always just cool seeing the devs interact with the community like that. So just a quick recap and highlight. New weapons and bluezone immunity backpack are going to be coming this season. I really hope that bluezone packback doesn't make it. Miramar 2 is likely going to be the next updated map before we even see a new map. There's going to be 2 new maps that have been leaked. Player IGN hinted at those before, like a Chile map and what was the other one? Like some kind of frozen tundra map, almost like an iced version of Akindi. The loot truck could be added to other maps if players like it, and then gliders are possibly going to be making it into Bikindi as well. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, if you did, please be sure to hit a like and subscribe for more PUBG videos. I plan on doing some new Season 8 videos exploring further the lore on Sanhok, so stay tuned for those. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Peace.